What's up, everybody? I'm Adam Finkelstein. He's Eric Bossi, and we are here to preview a big weekend of action as the Big 12 SEC Challenge comes to us this coming Saturday. So, Ebos, we got three games we're going to talk about here today, and we're going to start with a pair of blue bloods. One of them's ranked, one of them's not, but one of them's trending up, and the other one's trending down. So, of course, I'm talking about Kansas and Kentucky. What sticks out most to you about this matchup?
I mean, what a reversal of roles, right? It was just a few weeks ago that Kentucky lost to South Carolina and the sky was falling. Cal needed to be run
Right.
out of town, take the Texas job. That's what
Right.
we're talking about. And now they've won 4 games in a row. And Kansas, on the other hand, is enduring only I believe, the fourth 3-game losing streak in 20 years under Bill Self and walking into a game having never lost 4 games in a row under Bill Self. So, you've got Kentucky laid a beat down on Kansas last year. You got a lot going on with this game, and certainly no shortage of storylines.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting after Kansas fell at Baylor the other night, Bill Self was for a guy who I think, and you know him better than I, for a guy who is very serious about his craft and can be tough on his kids and his team. He had a pretty upbeat kind of message, and he said, "Listen, I don't think we played poorly. I think we've played better than we did in the last couple days. We just didn't rebound the ball." And so that to me is a subplot of this game because obviously Kentucky's got Oscar Tshiebwe. Kansas is playing smaller than they ever have before. They're playing KJ Adams almost as a small ball five at times. And against Baylor, they switched 1 through 5. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if they play with that same defensive philosophy. But talk about the glass because obviously Kentucky's playing a little bit differently too. Kason Wallace taking on more of a role as a primary ball handler. But is the battle for the glass kind of the subplot of this game?
Yeah, I think it's that and defending the 3-point line. And for Kentucky, Antonio Reeves has really stepped up in the last 4 games, averaging 17 a game, and really giving a nice compliment to Oscar out on the perimeter and what Kason can do getting to the rim and what Jacob Toppin can do kind of just as a disruptor at the 4. But they've got a rebound, and it's interesting you bring up KJ Adams, who he's done everything he can as a 6'6" 5" man, and he's not a
Yeah.
great rebounder. But what he is good at is establishing position and blocking out and holding off other guys while his teammates gang rebounds.
Mm,
They didn't do that against Baylor. They really haven't done that the last few games. And that, along with giving up too many threes, has been a problem. So if they can correct those, and then somebody has got to step up and give a third scoring option alongside Grady Dick and Jalen Wilson. Jalen
yeah.
Wilson just has way too much being asked of him right now. And, Dick can step up a little more, but they really need that third guy. And I think the key is going to be DeJuan Harris, who's been, borderline miserable these last couple of
Yeah,
games.
he's been
He's
bad.
got to he's got to find a way to, maybe give them 8 to 10 points and be that guy that he was when they shot up to number 2 in the rankings.
He certainly can't turn the ball over. I think, Bill Self addressed that as well. He said, listen, he knows he's not playing well. We know he's not playing well. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. But at minimum, he can't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
All right. Now, speaking of Baylor, obviously they're coming off that big win at home against Kansas. The place was rocking. Scott Drew shouted out the crowd afterwards. They had some celebrities in the crowd. Chip and Joanna were there if you're HGTV people. But they got another big one coming up. Arkansas and Baylor. That is another headline game this weekend. What is it about this matchup that you are particularly interested in?
I'm interested to see. I think this is going to be a guard heavy game, and I'm interested to
Mm,
see how it goes because, Arkansas has been dealing with injuries. Nick Smith hasn't been able to play very much. They lost Trayvon Brazile very early in the season. Baylor, I think LJ Cryer and Adam Flagler, they were expected to be really good, and Keontae George is the leading scorer. And while Keontae has been very up and down, he wasn't very good against Kansas. They effectively shut him out. Flagler and Cryer do seem like they're starting to get some synergy and really get some consistency going. And they've got experience, which is really valuable because Arkansas is relying heavily on Anthony Black to be not only their primary playmaker, but also like a Swiss Army knife defensively, right? And do a
yeah.
bunch of things. And there's a lot of pressure on Ricky Council to score. So Baylor seems to have things figured out. They've won 5 in a row after losing three in a row to start off Big 12 play. They're rolling along. Arkansas, on the other hand, is trying to find their identity, and they're another team that really needs somebody else to step up and help out with Anthony Black and Council because they've got so much that they're relied upon.
Right. Right. You know, it's interesting to me. We talk a lot about Baylor's guards, and rightfully so. They have the second highest rated offense in the country per KenPom.com. And it's not so much about the shot making, even though that's the thing that resonates. They're an outstanding offensive rebounding team, and they really get to the free throw line. And so that allows itself to get them easy points. Now, I do think the shooting plays into that, because when you have at least three, usually four players with Jalen Bridges on the floor who can stretch the court, you're going to have maximum spacing. They're really smart with what they run and how they move off the ball and all their pick and roll concepts. But then they go to the glass and they attack closeouts. They take advantage of that space and they get themselves to the free throw line. So I think that's going to be a really interesting challenge for Arkansas. And, you know, the guy I'd like to see a little bit more of, I think Jordan Walsh. You know, I mean, he's definitely had an opportunity with some of these injuries that you mentioned that Arkansas has faced, and they need him. They have needed him. He's been a little up and down, but this is a huge opportunity for him, and it doesn't necessarily have to come in the scoring column. If he can provide some rebounding, if he can provide some defense, if he can provide 30 minutes of energy, and again, keep Baylor off the glass and defend without fouling, those are harder things than it sounds like for a freshman. But I think Jordan Walsh could, even though he doesn't have to be a big scorer, could be a sneaky important player in this game.
No, I think you're exactly right. And Jordan is what I was going to get to, because what made him so good at the high school level wasn't necessarily that he was a scorer or some jumbo playmaker or something like that. He was a magnet for the ball. He got into defensive lanes for deflections. He seemed to be able to get rebounds anywhere with just his incredible length. And so if he can be that guy, that energy guy, that ball magnet, then things can really change for Arkansas, because a guy like Counts can get going. A guy like Devo Davis can come in and really pick up some points for them. But if they're getting their tails kicked on the glass, it's going to be really tough for them to win this game.
Right. All right. Now, last but not least, in fact, technically by the numbers, this is the highlight game of the weekend. We've got Texas and Tennessee. It's the only matchup, you pointed out, interestingly enough, where both teams are currently ranked. So obviously that's what stands out about the matchup itself, but there's a little bit of a subplot here. You've got Rodney Terry fighting for a chance to be the next head coach at Texas, going up against a former head coach in Texas in Rick Barnes. So this one is not short on storylines either. What stands out most to you?
Yeah, right. Not short on storylines. Top 10 matchup, the Barnes Bowl, all of that. You know, these guys, there can't be very many coaches in a head-to-head matchup. They're going to know each other better than Rodney Terry and Rick Barnes are going to do. They know each other's tendencies. They've sat in meeting rooms for years together. They've got a lot of philosophies that line up with each other. Tennessee has won 9 out of 10. Texas is going to be coming in having won 5 out of 6. I think it's going to be an interesting one where it's going to come down to guard play. You know, Tennessee is very, very balanced. They have 6 players averaging between 9 and 13 points a game. And when a guy like Santiago Vescovi is hot, they're really tough to deal with, because then they've got a kind of a 1-2 punch with Zakai Ziegler, who's just kind of a toughness guy. Texas, Marcus Carr has been putting up huge points and can win a game, but he can also lose a game. And it's going to be a key of, does he go YOLO and try and win this thing with everything on the line, or is he going to trust his teammates a little bit and let some of those guys, you know, let Hunter do his thing, you know, pound the ball into Dylan Dessou. Dylan Dessou has been really flourishing these last couple of games. He's got double figures in 4 of his last 5 games. And the one game that they lost, Iowa State, he went scoreless. So it's going to be a guard game, but whichever team finds a way to kind of mix in that big, I think is going to be a difference maker.
And, you know, you make a great point, because Texas, by the numbers, analytically speaking, has one of the best offenses in the country, but they are going against the best defense in the country. Check out some of these analytics for Tennessee's defense. They're number 1 in the country, not in the conference, in the country in adjusted efficiency. They're number 1 in the country in effective field goal percentage. So meaning the opposition shoots a lower percentage against them than anyone else. They're number 1 in the country in 3-point line defense. I mean, those are incredible metrics. They're also number 6 in the country in steal percentage. So they turn you over as well. The one thing they do is they foul a little bit. So if that's something that Texas can take advantage of, and to your point, the only way they are going to be able to score on this Tennessee defense and hopefully get some easy points at the free throw line is by sharing the ball, spacing them out, trying to play with maybe a little bit of pace. But this Tennessee defense, I think even more so than any one individual standout player, is about their collective effort on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, I really do believe that is the story of this Tennessee team. These analytics and metrics for them are absolutely off the charts. It's also worth noting that this game is being played in Tennessee, which I think gives Rick Barnes and his club another added bonus. Tell you what, it's going to be an exciting weekend of action here. We've got a ton of games. Stay tuned to 247sports.com as we keep it live all weekend long.